Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Good evening and welcome to the Friday night edition of Spaced Out Radio Tonight. How did that turn off? My name is Dave Scott. Thank you very much for tuning us in as we have Carter Buschardt here. We're going to get into some Bigfoot, some aliens. It's going to be a great way to finish off this week, and I look forward to having all of you here as well, including Eternity Eternal in the gold medal position. Tim Mothman and his goatee with a silver. Necessary Dialogue with a bronze medal tonight. Kitty Cattywack, how are you? Paramarv, nice to see you. And Robert Lamoth and Hippie Deidre, thank you for coming on in as we continue on with our roll call tonight. Mike Patrick, welcome to SOR Chat. And T-Bone, my man, how you doing? Mel WD-40 is here lubing us up for tonight's show because when Carter is on, he always wants to come in nice and smooth. So thank you, Mel, for lubing us up for tonight. Karen in the Woo Train, how you doing? Mama Catherine, Mama Catherine will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio if you don't mind, to the left of the studio. David Norenberg, how are you? Skip to my Lou. Thanks for joining us as we continue on with our roll call here. Flat 6, good to see you. And who's next on our list here? Scrolling on down. Ethanol, thank you for joining us. And who is next? In the studio, good to have you here. Hi there, Trucker Andrew and Cosmic Joe. Good to have you both here. Luscious Jules, how you doing, my friend? Thank you for coming on in. Let's continue on with our roll call here. Walter Kochabinski, good to see you. Lisa Smith, thanks for coming on in. Radiohead, been a long time. How you been? Scrolling on down. Next up, we have Blue Cruise. Blue Cruise will be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the right of the studio, if you don't mind. To the right of the studio. Cody Eiler, how's it going? And who is next? Oob to Joe's Maine. You've got aliens. Green-eyed lady, thank you for joining us once again. Doug Shelby is here. The Doug Shelby has arrived, which means we can officially start this show. Jay Truthseeker, how's it going? Fapster, how you doing tonight? Stargazer, thank you for coming on in as we continue on with our roll call here. Nina Williams, good to see you. And who else do we have here? The gorgeous, the talented, the cryptid huntress, Jessica Jones. Much love to you, my friend. I hope you are doing very, very well. I want to call you this weekend probably, just so you know. Signs of Life, good to see you here. Hi there, Sensational Shelley. Jose Sanchez, how you doing, my friend? Thank you for joining us once again. Damian K., good to see you as we are in a roll call right now. Scrolling on down. Hi there, lovely and talented Deanna Ann. Good to see you. And Sensational Shelley. How's your hair tonight? Let's see here. Holla at me, Dave. I'll listen out for you. I can do that. I know how to do that, so maybe I will. Maybe I will. I think we're caught up on roll call. Let's get the radio side going. Hello and welcome to the radio and podcast side of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We have Carter Buschardt coming on, author, researcher, one hell of a good poker player as well. And we are going to be talking about Bigfoot. We're going to talk about his research into Sasquatch. And we are in roll call as we speak, as we say hello next to Marie Garman. How are you? And Supernatural Station Podcast, welcome to the show. Poncho Zorch, good to see you. Remember, everybody, the Super Chat is open. It's a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. Super Knower, how are you? And don't forget, you can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. Why? We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag. Hi, Brooke Michelle, how are you? Yes, no ugly swag in our store, so you're going to want to check it on out because it's nice stuff. It really is. Do me a favor, throw those horns up. Let's rock.
Are you ready to hear your mystic voice of the night?
It's time to wake up.
He's here. Shush. Be quiet. He's ready for you to listen. Let's point our ears towards the little cabin in the woods, where together, my friends, we own the night. It's time for Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott.
From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the Newswire, check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. This is going to be a fun one tonight. Carter Buschardt, Sasquatch researcher and author, is here to talk about what it's like to have encounters with the big hairy beasts. Yeah, and maybe he'll sprinkle in some dogmen and aliens too. Then in hour number 3, Swamp Dweller will kick things off. Then extra small Lee Strauss will join us for the Q&A. All right, let's get right to it. Carter Buschardt has been an investigator with the BFRO for the last 15 years. Originally from Texas, currently living in Missouri. Notice how I didn't say Missouri, I said Missouri on that one. See, a Canadian can pronounce Missouri. He can. I just did it again. Missouri. Well, he's had nearly 100 reports published to the BFRO website and has interviewed over 500 witnesses and counting. He is an experienced outdoorsman and trained as an investigator for MUFON. Carter studied herpetology in college, long-time special interest in Sasquatch, long-term his habituation sites, burial research, infrasound, language, and stick structures. He's got a few books out as well, including his one where he is abducted by aliens. Yeah. This guy's got it all. You're going to love him. Carter Buschardt, welcome back to Spaced Out Radio, my friend. How are you?
I was almost asleep, Dave. What the heck? What are you doing?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, my man. I had to wake you up.
I'm doing good. I after this show, I got to go throw my paper out, so I'm glad to be here. Got me awake early.
How's the poker game?
A poker game is, sadly for some of my opponents, going well. I hit the bad beat 2.5. It's almost 3 years ago. The big one. I mean, a big one. And then I hit another first part of this year, February. Yeah, February. Same morning, same people were almost at the table as the first one. It was just, but it was awesome. Poker money supplements the income, as long as I don't get carried away. Does good.
You're not playing in the World Series of Poker this time around?
No, I took off 3 years to write 5 books, and I kind of neglected visiting my habituation family. So I'm going to go out and visit them toward the end of the summer when it cools down a little bit and the ticks are kind of hibernating a little. So no, not this year. So
you and I got to do that. We just got to say heck with it and go do it one year.
Well, we should. I tried one year. It just wasn't meant to be. I think that first year with your thing in, what was it, Reno? Or was it Vegas?
Vegas.
It's Vegas. Yeah. Trying to commandeer a poker table in a busy Vegas casino, unless you've got a full table to fill up, is pretty hard. So I say, well, I got 3 or 4 friends that like to sit at a table. Can we have a table? Well, no, you got, we'll have to add strangers to your table. So that's part of the way it is here in Kansas City anyway. You can't just commandeer a table. You have to, guarantee them a certain amount of income, tips and everything. So
for sure.
Yeah.
Carter, you have had some interesting encounters, interesting research go along the way through your time as a researcher and investigator. Before we get into those, for people who may not be familiar with your work, how did it all start for you?
Well, when I was, I don't know how old, or I'll be dating myself when I tell you this, I watched In Search Of with Leonard Nimoy with the Patty film. And that was it for me. I already knew that was real in my little kid brain. I said, I want to do that. That is fascinating. I've heard about it. So that's what got me into it, was seeing that. And then after we saw that, probably 20 years ago, my wife and I went to Washington State, and they had just passed marijuana laws there, so it was legal. And we had rented a cabin for out in the middle of nowhere on the east of Seattle. And the guys told us and said, you got to be real careful out here, because the growers, the guys that are growing illegally now, have guns, and they don't like it when people find their grow places. And so they warned us not to go out or be careful when we did. So we were careful, but we wanted to go hiking in the beautiful Washington State woods. Who wouldn't do that? So I had to take a leak, pulled up to a tree, and at the base of this tree was a ammo box, a big military ammo box, bigger than the normal ones, but it was chained to the tree. And I'm thinking, oh crap, I found a stash. Okay, I'm going to get shot right here. Let me take a leak first, before you shoot me. But that wasn't the case. So I decided to open it after I finished my business. And in the ammo box, people probably familiar with this, it was a geocache. Remember that game? It may still be.
We still do it.
Yeah, it's still going on. It was a geocache. And so I opened the thing up, and literally, this is how I knew it was meant to be. The first thing on the top I picked up was a business card for a Sasquatch researcher out of Washington State. I'm going, this is meant to be. I want to be a researcher. And the first thing I reach in and grab is a business card for a guy I don't even know, but he's a Sasquatch researcher. So I called him up, and when I got back, and they hooked me up with people here in Missouri at the time, and I went on an expedition. And within a year, I was a researcher. I was doing reports. I mean, I was just inhaling it. It was just, I was in heaven, still am. But that's how I got into the business of it,
Why believe?
Why
There's
believe?
So many people out there who just don't know truly what's happening. Why believe it at all?
Well, the reason you don't is because every one of us are lied to from the day you're born until the 18 to 22 years of age. You go through school, you go through college, they all tell you what's real and what's not. And you're a kid, you don't know any better. There's no Sasquatch, there's no UFOs, there's no aliens, there's no dogman, there's none of that. That's just imagination. You see something in the woods, your imagination goes crazy. They tell you all that stuff. So your entire life, you don't believe them. Even if you saw one, you're going to explain it away as something else. That's just how they do it. The government and social media and science. And everybody is working. There's a big secret to be kept. They don't want us to know about those things. So that's why when you see something, you go, that was, I had a bad taco for breakfast, or I had a couple of beers, or I just was seeing things. I don't know what I saw, but I thought it was something, but since they don't exist, I believe you. So it must have been something else. And I go about my day and my life, and I walk around in ignorance. That's what we're supposed to do. We're just supposed to be lemmings and pay our taxes,
Well, I think as people, though, have moved more into populated areas, okay, cities, suburbs, you name it, they've lost touch with the smaller communities. And when people say, I always find these city people who say, "Oh, I'm going hiking up in the mountains," and literally it's the town's local hill. You know what I'm saying? That's surrounded by subdivisions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Little things like that. Sure, you might get the odd cougar or maybe a black bear, but they're far and few between because there's so much human interaction in those areas. Yeah. But people really don't know, for the most part anymore, what it's like to be in a dense forest where, when you tell people, yeah, I was in the middle of the forest, they immediately think, well, there's probably somebody there within a couple hundred yards of you. And you're in the middle of nowhere, and there's nobody around you. There's nobody sneaking in. There's nobody walking a trail. You know what I'm saying? They don't know what it's like being that deep into the forest. And I think that's where a lot of the skeptics get confused by many of these sightings and these encounters, because they've never been put in that situation where they've been deep in the forest.
No, that's true. Your casual hiker, your city slickers, and I'm one of them. I'm a converted city slicker, but you have no idea what you're going to go see in the forest. You expect maybe a bear, maybe a deer, if you're lucky, coyote or something of that nature, maybe a bear, but you relatively don't see much of anything. And then when you do, you're like, oh my God, what was that? Oh, I'm scared. I'll go back home. Yeah. So, but the people aren't prepared. And they're not prepared with their minds either. They're not prepared. Like, I might see something I'm not used to seeing, or I'm not even aware that it exists. And so you don't think of that when you go out in the woods. Talk to so many witnesses who were converted now, but they said, I had no idea. The forest is an entirely different world to people that don't get out much. That.
As somebody who is one of those converts,
mm-hmm.
I can say this. When we first moved up here, or when I moved my family up here, we were city folk.
Yeah.
And now, I look back at myself 10 years later, I don't even recognize who I am. And that's not just because I've gained weight. It has everything to do with the fact, Carter, that we used to drive in the forest. We would tell nobody where we were going. We were just going for a drive to see some wild animals. If we would have got a flat tire or a vehicle broke down, we'd have been in a dangerous spot because there is no cell phone service out there.
No.
But that being said, I also had to change my way of thinking too, because we would go out there, we wouldn't have any safety blankets just in case. We wouldn't have any fire starter. We wouldn't have any a medical kit in case something happened. Wouldn't have any of that. I didn't even have a firearms license at that point, so there were no pointy sticks to keep us safe just in case. Because you never know when a bear's all of a sudden going to come up to the door and try and rip your door off.
Yeah. Now, we've had bears come into camp, basically when we're cooking dinner, they've come into camp. I've got a couple of videos of that. It's interesting. But yeah, you're not prepared for what you see. And I was the city slicker of all city slickers. I was a rock and roll drummer for 20 years. I was a city kid. Other than Boy Scouts, I didn't do any rigorous camping or anything of that nature. And unless it was on my own with my neighborhood buddy, we'd go down and hunt and fish all the time, almost daily. But, you're not prepared for the stuff out there. Anything from ticks to bear to Sasquatch to whatever's out there, dogman, rattlesnakes. I mean, if you're just going out there, the woods, it sounds so sexy and exciting, but there's work to be prepared and to enjoy it. You don't really find that out until after a couple of trips out there, but people can enjoy themselves out there. You do have to be prepared, and when I'm in the woods, I'm really more concerned with humans than anything else trying to hurt me. I've run into some really bad people out in the woods a few times, so it's not fun. They're out there.
Well, the way I look at it, and maybe you do too, Carter, is the woods, as beautiful as they aren't made for today's people for the most part. They really aren't. And this is where the creatures like Bigfoot and Dogman have an advantage.
Yeah.
They are the camouflage specialists. Whether you believe that they're flesh and blood or whether you believe they're supernatural of some kind, they are still the hide and seek champions for a reason. And the idea that we don't have a clue because we've lost all of our senses for nature, we don't usually go study sounds on what animals sound like. We don't understand the difference in scat. We don't understand pretty much anything that goes on in the forest. It really, even though we think we're the apex predator, we're really not, because we've lost that ability.
Yeah, no, we're part of the food chain. We have lost, and we have all the creature comforts. Computers do everything for us. We don't have to shop. We don't have to do anything. We don't have to get off our butts. You can push a button and buy stuff, and it comes to your front door 2 days later. Grocery store, and you don't have to do anything. So you're right. When you get out in the woods to take a break, yeah, best hair in radio. That might be. I thought I had the best hair, but apparently I've fallen to second place. But that's a whole other story. Yeah, but when you go out in the woods, it's not just a vacation from your city life. And if that's all you look at it as, that's fine. But it's a whole nother experience. It could be a spiritual experience, and not just because you see a Sasquatch or a dogman or anything spooky. You just become one with nature, and you hear the birds singing, and you're smelling the smells and the cedar and the spruce, and hearing the babbling brooks. I mean, there's a whole other reason to go into the woods besides to explore. It's maybe to explore your own psyche a little bit and just get out there and meld with everything. So you can go out there not afraid, not expect to see anything, and have a wonderful time. For those of you that do go out and don't have a wonderful time and see something you're not expecting, well, welcome to the woods. That's the way the woods is.
Isn't that the truth? We got 5.5 minutes before we have to go to break. Author Carter Buschardt is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Carter, do you remember what your first sighting was like?
Oh boy, do I. I could get it done in 2 minutes. Okay, I joined BFRO. I was brought into that group by fellow humans that are obtuse. It was ape only, and they were very hostile if you had an open mind, if you thought it might be something else. So my first expedition I led, I saw one vanish in front of my face at night, 11 o'clock, through my thermal. Blew me away. And it's like, you've been telling me they're ape only. They can't do this stuff. They don't have these skills. They don't have quantum or paranormal skills. What do you mean they can't do this? They just did it. And I saw it, And so that for me took me down the other road less traveled, the paranormal quantum road, because when you see something like that, it changes everything. We had lost party of about 7 or 8 people. They got separated from us. I was leading the expedition. We stayed near the camp, and they were doing about a mile and a half circle at night, doing a big circle exploring, and going to come back and meet each other. Well, they got lost, and I was scanning the woods through my thermal. And don't do this. Don't not record because you want to save your batteries. That's what I was doing. I was a stupid rookie. So I won't save my batteries. I don't need to record this. I'm just going to see if I can see him coming. Well, I see his heat signature coming through the woods. Finally, I'm thinking, and it's all broken up with the branches and leaves and everything. So I'm thinking it's got to be them. Oh my God, thank God they're okay, because there was a lot of rookies on there that were lost in the woods on their first expedition. It was kind of funny, but not. Anyway, I see this heat signature come around the woods, come around this bend on the trail. And it's not my lost hikers. It's a freaking Sasquatch about 7, 8 feet tall. And it takes one step. And when I see it, I'll go, oh, and it looked, and it took the second step and vanished. It just poof. It was like a giant flash bulb went off in front of my face. I couldn't even see. It was just ridiculous. I was going, what did I just see? Well, I knew what I just saw. So at that point, I became a paranormal, quantum, metaphysical believer of the skills of Sasquatch. They're not just a dumb ape. And so that's where I went off. And it's been great ever since, because, dumb ape doesn't answer many questions of the things you see and hear that they do. And paranormal, quantum, metaphysical, anything in that genre explains so much more. Now, you may not be able to physically explain, like scientifically, it just disappeared, or it came through a portal and disappeared, or walked through a tree and came out. It did not come out the other side. What am I seeing? But that you're not crazy. You're not stoned. You're not drunk. You're lucid, awake human being, and you see these things, and you can't discount it. You can try. But if you're realistic with yourself, you just can't blow that off. And that's where I diverged from the rest of the crowd. So
the great debate, I know you went through it yourself, the flesh and blood versus the woo side of this creature.
Yeah.
It is one that continues to kind of be tormented through the cryptid world on this. Why did you change your stance from being flesh and blood to all of a sudden saying maybe there's something different here that we need to look at?
Well, that right there, that seminal moment, that turned it around for me. And as I was doing reports, people were telling me about their sighting. Most of this, every other report 10 years ago was a road crossing. 50% of everything you got. Well, I was driving home 12 o'clock off of work, 1 o'clock in the morning, and sees this big hairy thing walk across the road. That was the gist of your reports. But when I started talking to my witnesses that had called in reports, they were not talking about their specific report. They were asking me questions about, well, what if somebody saw, what if somebody said, what? And I'm going, well, which did you have? And I figured out, because I'm smart that way, that they were not wanting to talk about what they actually saw because of fear of ridicule and mockery, which everybody knows about. UFOs, Sasquatch, Dogman, whatever. If you see something weird and you talk about it, you're weird yourself and you're mocked. So they were asking me in a roundabout way, without saying anything, that they have had other reports, other events that they wanted to talk about, but they didn't want to talk about it for fear of ridicule. And so I started talking.
Hold that thought, Carter. Hold
Gotcha.
that thought, because we are going to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. Author, researcher, investigator of everything unknown, Carter Buschardt. He's a member of MUFON. He's a member of the BFRO. He's a member of the best goatees in the business club. Yeah, we like good facial hair around here. I don't know. It's just one of those things we do. Spaced Out Radio, second half hour. Coming up with Bigfoot Talk right after this. All right, we're clear.
All right. You've unmuted my mic. Awesome.
I did.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's just so bizarre. And that's how I'll talk about this when we go back on, but the people, and I just picked up on this by accident, or maybe I could read through what they were saying, but I realized these people had other things and they were all living on the properties with these beings being there. And they were having these daily, weekly, monthly experiences, hearing conversations between them, the Sasquatch talking to one another, throwing sticks and gifting and all the whole gamut. But they didn't want to talk about it for fear of ridicule. You live in a small town in the middle of nowhere, everybody, that's Bob over there. Yeah, he saw a Sasquatch. He's all messed up. Let's give him some crap. So they don't talk. The fear of all that shuts you up. It wouldn't anybody, really. So I just started asking questions. I said, I tell you what, I got a feeling you want to tell me something, and I'm not going to publish this report if you don't want me to. I'm not going to use your name, address, nothing. If you just want to tell me what you really saw, and I'll just write it off. And so then they started telling me what they saw. They didn't write it off. I said, I'm going to put this in a book. I turned in the reports, and and as you know, some of them were deleted, or certain things in the reports were deleted, and then published anyway. We've talked about that, hey, is Nick still working with you, or is he gone? Shaughnessy?
No, he's gone.
He's gone, yeah.
He just disappeared.
Well, he was the one who alerted me to what was going on.
Right.
I had because he had called in his report. It was a really good report. And I said, hey, man, I sent his report to him. I said, the report's published. And he called me back. He was pissed. What'd you do to my report? I said, what I told you. What do you mean? What did I do to it? I put everything you told me in there, and it turns out it had been obfuscated. Some of the things that showed intelligence or thinking, rational thinking, were taken out. And then he published the report anyway. I mean, that's just so stupid. But that's how I found out. And that was like 2020, 2021. That's when I found out that all that was going on. So I started talking to these people, and I just sent Moneymaker a letter. So I'm gonna write books. And he said, as long as the reports that you worked on got your name on it, that's fine. And so that's what I started doing. And the information was just gushing out of people. It was just bizarre. They were so relieved they could finally talk about it and not be worried about their name getting out, their location getting out, the fear of ridicule, all of that. They were like, oh my God, I'm set free. And so people just started vomiting valuable, awesome information. And that's how it just started, and some of these people kind of knew each other. And so, hey, Carter's okay. He's okay. You talk to him. He's not going to screw you over. So that's how I started getting all these people coming up. Now they're calling me, or emailing me monthly. I get something almost every week, some of it's good, some of it's not, but that's how I got into talking to all these people, and it's been a blessing. I mean, it's been really awesome, and it told me that I took the right direction because they're experiencing the weird shit too, the talking, the disappearing, appearance of orbs and UFOs right before or right after a Sasquatch event, blah, blah, blah. I know we're back on, aren't we?
Yeah, hold on. Well, we got about 45 seconds.
Okay, well, I'll shut up because I'll talk for a minute and a half.
All right. Jerence Carter, how are you? Jerence Carter, everybody. Paging Dr. Jerence Carter. Dr. Jerence Carter, are you here? Thank you, Trucker Andrew, T-Bone, my man, and Mel WD40 for the lube chat. Greatly appreciate your love and support here on Spaced Out Radio. If you're new here, do us a favor, hit subscribe, ring that bell. We see our growth made up by all of you. Mike Patrick, how you doing? Welcome.
Hi, Mike.
Yeah, we know we've been live since the break. We always are.
Yeah.
That's
And
what we do here.
Hello, Jessica.
We're just in commercial break on the radio side. Hold on, Carter. Here we go.
Okay.
Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is underway. My name is Dave Scott. We're going to get into more Bigfoot sightings, investigations, and cool encounters with Carter Buschardt. We're going to bring him on momentarily, but first, I want to remind all of you that if you miss portions of this show or others, our archives are always free. Go to YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Author, researcher Carter Buschardt is here. You can find his books on Amazon or any major podcast or book network online. Carter, welcome back to the show, my friend.
Thank you. I had a nice nap while we were gone.
All right, right before the break, you were talking about these encounters that you were reporting on, but just some of them weren't making it, and some of them weren't even making half of it. Explain.
Well, when you see anything unusual, aliens, Sasquatch, Dogman, whatever, ghosts, whatever, there's a fear of ridicule and mockery. People that don't understand or don't believe will just ridicule you to death. The worst offenders are your spouse and best friends and coworkers. They will tear you up because they can. So anyhow, people calling in reports. And so I've had 100 reports published to BFRO. I've turned in many more. Some just didn't make the grade for whatever reason. But I could tell that a guy would call and say, hey, my wife and I saw one driving across Arkansas. It crossed the road 1 o'clock in the morning. I know it was a Sasquatch. I can't believe it. We saw it. That was half of the reports. But when I was talking to them, they were not talking about their sighting. They kept asking me about other people's sightings. So what are other people saying? I've got a friend who saw one walk behind a tree and didn't come out the other side. It looked like it walked inside the tree and never came out. Stuff like that. So do you believe in that? So they were interviewing me. I thought I was interviewing them, but they're actually interviewing me in just a few of these. But it just something clicked in me. I said, you got something else going on because you're not asking about your report, which I've asked you about 3 or 4 times. You start talking about something else, which is awesome. So that's how I got into getting people to just look. I'm not going to, if you don't want me to publish this report, I will not publish it. I'll just tell them you were decided you just didn't want to do it. That's all I had to do is say, witness decides not to participate, and the report goes away. So, but they started telling me stuff. I said, I will not publish it. Your name will not be out, your location, nothing. Just tell me what you're really getting at. And then they just started regurgitating all these incredible tales. And that's how I got on to my line of questioning was, some people, very few, but some would come out and just say, I know I called you about this road crossing, or I saw one walking across my pasture, but this is what I'm really calling it. And they started telling me. So that's how I got into it. And that's how, and you mentioned it earlier, mainstream America is gravitating away from the ape only explanation, or they know the government's lying to us about UFOs, UAPs, Sasquatch existence, blah, blah, blah. So they know that. So their open mind has got a little bit wider, and they're starting to, realize that if I thought I saw something, I probably saw what I thought I saw. I'm just not supposed to believe it because I've been told since I was born that none of this stuff exists. And if you think so, you're crazy. That's in a nutshell. So that's how I got these people talking about all these incredible adventures and getting these photos and stuff. It's just, you know, I'm not worthy, but it's awesome. The people are sharing and they feel so relieved, and it's filled up 4 books.
It also shows the want of control of the narrative in the Bigfoot world, much like we see the UFO going to UAP, and it's all a threat narrative in the UFO world these days. The flesh and blooders when it comes to Bigfoot is something that we struggle with as well. I remember speaking at a Bigfoot conference here in British Columbia last year. And one of the things, it was funny because on Saturday they had all the heavy hardcore scientists coming on there. And I found it kind of interesting because the conference was actually on native land. And they are very spiritual,
Yeah.
Most First Nations people when it comes to the creature. And here these scientists were there basically making fun of the woo.
Yeah.
And fun of it being a spiritual creature, And so I spoke on Sunday. I figured, you know what? I like the woo in this, so I'm gonna get some of these guys back. So I ever politely stated, unlike what you have heard here, we don't know what this creature is. We don't know if it's flesh and blood. We don't know if it has spiritual capabilities. We really don't know. And anybody who is banking on the fact that it is, well, that's not 100% true.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, there was one guy there, he would not talk to me the entire weekend after that. Wouldn't even look at me. He just gave me the glare, right? And I was like, well, what's the truth? Because the one thing, whether it's UFOs, ghosts, cryptids, the one thing that has happened over the last decade or so is we've seen opinion become science.
Yep.
You don't solve anything with opinion. You don't solve anything by fudging numbers like the BFRO and fudging statistics. You don't solve anything. All you do is it makes this field look like a bunch of cheaters.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it is changing because, when I first put out my 3rd book, I got so much grief. Oh, that photo's fake. How dare you put that out there? That's fake. And that's just, there's no way that's all the crap, But yet there were people stealing my photos and putting them on their Facebook pages and web pages. So, if it's a bunch of crap, what are you doing stealing my stuff and putting it on your site? So, there's all that going on. And like I said, it is deep seated. It is from the day you were born that we are told this, among other things in the government about money and stocks and science and all of that. We're just lied to because we're just, taxpayers keeping the government afloat. That's all we're doing. If we see, hear, or say something that the government doesn't believe in, they let us know about it and call us fools. So, it's not fair. It's not fair at all. But yeah, I know how you feel because that's, when you said that, that's the reason I have not been invited to speak at one Sasquatch conference because of my paranormal beliefs. And I've been told that.
I'm going to try and get you in one next year.
Well, that's cool. I've been promised that too. And, if you can, great. If not, but I don't want it to be because Dave told, hey, this guy's good, but if people will embrace it and believe it, or at least consider the things I'm saying that I've experienced, the things that my witnesses, you can call me a liar. You want to call my witnesses a liar? That's a whole other thing. We'll have to have some fisticuffs because these are good, down to earth people getting something off their chest so they can go to sleep at night and have a nice night's sleep and not worry about stuff. And so these are good people. So if you're trashing me, you're trashing them, and that's not fair. You can do to me what you want. I don't care. That's what happens with the paranormal stuff. Because you interfere with their revenue stream. If you go to a big convention and you start talking that, and you go, "Oh, well, I saw one," all of a sudden, their revenue stream and their control and their power over everybody dissipates and goes away. They don't like that. So, but I just to connect with the people. So there's somebody in that audience in one of these conventions, multiple people that believe there's other stuff going on besides the ape only thing, but they dare not say a word, because that's what the public impression does to people, powers you down. Sad.
There is a lot of good in this field, though, because there are good people trying to get this going and trying to look at all sides of the spectrum when it comes to Sasquatch, Dogman, and any other little cryptid that's running around. I mean, the last thing that I know I want to see is gnomes running around. But, I mean, that would be kind of cool at the same time, too.
Yeah.
Have you found in your research, before we get into some stories, any patterns on how you know if you are in an area with Sasquatch or Dogman?
It goes dead quiet, not because I'm there, but because they're there. Nature doesn't stop for a measly human walking through. Birds and raccoons and possums and bears and deer. They know who we are, and they know if we're carrying a weapon. But when you walk into the woods and it falls silent, and you start hearing a little grunt, a little clack, a little knock, you're in the right place. I have a couple of research areas that when I go there, they know I'm there. They know I'm a researcher, but they know me, and they know I say, I don't have my gear. I just want to experience you. Do what you want to do. I don't have any gear. And I don't. I mean, I have it with me, but I don't have it out. I don't, go throw 18 trail cams on a tree and start beating a tree to death with a bat so I can get somebody to talk back to you. I don't do any of that. I just sit there and let nature come to me. Invariably, it does. Sometimes it just doesn't, but you still have a great weekend in the woods with some solace and, peace of mind. But invariably, I'll get a mental image, I'll get a mental message, I'll get a shoulder tap, I'll get them they'll do or say something that lets me know they're there. And that's it. That's all I need. The rest it comes with the territory. They come to me, I meditate at night, and they come to me on occasion as I'm meditating. And I get little things here and there around the house that lets me know that they are still aware of me and aware of my presence when I go out on lead expeditions, especially the last one I led, 2019 in Illinois. That was the time that I got my cool guy card with the Sasquatch people. They were communicating with me, and they let me know they knew who I was and the people I was leading. And it all changed for good and for certain in 2019. It was going on long before that, but 2019 was like, but my witnesses, they've got all sorts of photos and recordings, and they just do it kind of on the sly because the Sasquatch are watching them in their daily walking around the house, working the yard, the farm, doing all their stuff. So they're kind of up to date. They know what you're doing, but a little trail camera or a little, microphone here and there doesn't really bother them because they know nothing is going to come of it as far as danger to them. So they let the stupid humans have their fun. That's the way I call it.
We got 10 minutes to go before we have to go to break at the top of the hour. Author, researcher, Carter Buschardt is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio, and he's a fun one at that. What was it like the first time you found a footprint? Do you remember that moment?
Yeah, it was in Iowa, and we found believe it or not, a 24-inch footprint, although I think it had slid in the mud a little bit. But it was definitely a print. There was at least 4 toes. The only one was missing was the little toe. And a guy from Canada who paid money to come on this expedition, he's the one who found it. And he was so tickled to death. I've got a picture of him still. He was so happy and proud of himself. But when I saw that print, it's just more validation, like the ones I have on the wall back here. I've got my own. I've got a handprint up here. I've got my own footprint. I've got the Patterson Gimlin, and I've got Paul Freeman. So when you see stuff like that, you're on the right track. This is really happening. It's really a thing. No matter what the world tells you, no matter what the government tells you, or the forest ranger, or anybody else tells you, you've seen it, you've experienced it. It's you can't take that away from an experiencer, and it stays with you forever. You know, and it's an awesome thing to be able to walk onto properties and to know that they know you, they welcome you, they're not going to do anything to you, they're not going to come try to kill you at night or eat your babies or any of that kind of stuff, because that's another bad misnomer that the people put on the Sasquatch people, is that they're bloodthirsty, want to kill your babies and eat you and destroy or burn your house down and take it over. That kind of stuff is just garbage. But that's just more, chasing people away from the truth is all that is. Show me one house that's been burned down or taken over by a Sasquatch. Zero. That stuff just doesn't happen. If you try to hurt them or harm them, all bets are off, like any human. But if you're just living on your property, peaceful enjoyment of your property, and they happen to be sharing the same property, and I guarantee you they were probably there before you were. So, and so it's all good. They're showing us that we can live in peace and harmony. I'm not trying to be all, kumbaya and all that, but they don't want us to pollute the earth. They're destroying the earth for them. We are destroying the planet for them with our pollution and all of that kind of stuff, and racism and all the stuff. They want the world to be the happy, wonderful place it was before we came along and screwed it all up.
That first footprint that you saw, how addicting did you become to this subject, and how quickly was it?
I bought 200 pounds of Ultra Cal 30 as soon as I got back. That's the good catch. I went because one of these prints back behind me here, my buddy it's a 19-inch print. He ran out of plaster and couldn't get the toes, but I have a picture of the footprint of the print in the sand. But so I decided then I'm not going anywhere unprepared. I have a complete DNA kit with gloves and tubes and swabs, and I've got all of that. On the off chance I find some scat or a hair or anything, I'm prepared. I've got a microscope back behind me. I got two of them actually. So I'm prepared. I just haven't had the pleasure. But so far I haven't needed it because I've got other things that tell me of proof of their existence and the quantum paranormal things that they can do on occasion.
I always wonder about that. I do.
Yeah.
It intrigues me. It totally intrigues me about just the way everything comes together with this creature, because it is so perfect. Earlier you were talking about the sounds that you make, where everything all of a sudden goes quiet, or you start hearing tree knocks in the background or whatever. Do you ever get the double thud tap on the ground, like a thud thud?
Yeah, I'll get foot stomp. I call them foot stomps, but I think it's the same thing. And I'll get them in threes. And normally I equate the foot stomps, the tree knocks, or whatever other sounds, I attribute that to them letting others know how many humans are there. One stomp, one human. Two stomps. I've had that many times when me and a partner would pull up to a certain area. You get bam, bam, 2 tree knocks, woo, 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 a couple of whistles. It's one for each human they see. They're already communicating with the rest of the gang. Hey, there's a couple of city folks out here. Let's watch it, basically. So, but I get those. I get the knocks and the foot stomps, whistles, chest pops, which I think some tree knocks are actually they're cupping their hands and popping their chests, But I usually associate that number or that sound with them warning or informing other Sasquatch that there's a human in the area. And it's not just a city slicker, it's a researcher kind of guy. So watch what you do, folks. This guy might be taking pictures. So you better watch it.
You never know. You never know who's taking pictures. What's a story that really sticks out with you? One that you've covered, maybe one that you've experienced?
Well, seeing that one disappear on my first expedition, that will always be the spank on the butt of the newborn baby, for me. It was like, I can't make that up. Nobody's doing that. They just did that and they're not supposed to. What am I seeing? Are these people pranking me? So that did it. But do we have time?
We got 3.5 minutes.
Okay. The expedition I led in Illinois, 2019, were these rocks were left for me by the Sasquatch people. And the reason I know that is because I had led the expedition. That that log across the path was kind of where we stopped at night for 2 nights, because some people were just getting tired and it was very inhospitable trying to walk on this jagged rocks at 11, 12 o'clock at night. So we just used that as a stopping spot. It was about 100 yards from where we parked and it was just perfect. But that we had a lot of footprints, we had a lot of activity, but they would not communicate with us. They would not, respond to knocks or calls. They were just, you could hear them whispering and watching us, but they would not acknowledge us, anything we did. So the next morning, which was Saturday night, it was our last night, I left a trail camera on the base of that log on the ground, facing up a little bit. So what the heck? I'm not going to get anything, but if I don't do it, I'm not going to get anything for sure. So at least I got to try, So I left the camera there and I went back to get it Sunday morning. And I called when I got there. Those 5 rocks were there. That one of them is pointed. That's me, the leader of the expedition. The 4 rocks behind it were the only 4 people I had on that expedition because of COVID. Everybody else canceled. These people did not want to go home. They wanted to go on the expedition. You keep my money, I want to go. So I took them. So when I got back, those rocks were there. At the other end of the log was a round, small rock, but a short, fat rock. And it represented my partner, Harold, who was there, but not there because he's had a few strokes, cancer. He doesn't get around well. So he stayed in the truck while we were doing the expedition and was radioing back and forth if he saw or heard something. So they let me know that we know who you are and this is our memorial to you. The big rock was me. The 4 was the people. The other rock was Harold. This is the icing. I called my wife. I told her, I was looking at this. I'm going, what the heck? What was it? Oh my, I finally figured out, oh my God, the Sasquatch, they're communicating. They're talking to me because that's us. That's the 5 people on the expedition and Harold. And so I called my wife. I was all excited. And she said, well, what time did this happen? So I don't know. It's COVID. And we went back about 5 o'clock, 5:30 because it gets dark. It's winter. It's October was when this expedition was. So she said, well, I'm going to tell you something. 8:30 last night, I'm getting ready for bed and a blue orb. If I start getting teary, sorry about this, Dave. This blue orb comes into our bedroom and flies around 2 or 3 times, goes into the bathroom and disappears.
Wow.
That's them letting me and her know that, it's very emotional because it was them telling me You know who you are.
Right? Carter Buschardt is here. Get his books on Amazon. We got him for another hour on Spaced Out Radio.
This is Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott.
All right, we are clear. Carter, I'm just going to put you in the green room where we got about just about 5.5 minutes, okay?
Okay.
All right, be right back, everybody. All right, I am back. Let's bring Carter back in here. Thank you tonight to Mel WD40, T-Bone, Trucker Andrew for the great super chats. Always appreciate your love and support. It's a great way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis, so thank you very much. If you're new here, don't forget to hit subscribe, ring that bell, because we are here 7 days a week for your listening entertainment. Yes, we are. Why? Because, well, we just like to work. We're addicted to the work. That's what it is. Questions are coming in hour number 2 here, so make sure you get them in capital letters so I can actually see them. AJ, how you doing, my man? Good to see you. Don't forget you can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag. Any signs of the shirts yet? Remind me, T-Bone. Thurston Howell III, how you doing? Hi, Amy. How are you? Here we go. Talking Bigfoot tonight in hour number 2. My name is Dave Scott. Our guest is Carter Buschardt, researcher and author of The Cryptid Phenomena. We're going to get to him momentarily, but first we want to say hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Damnification. Damnification is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Let us go to Carter Buschardt here. He has been a longtime researcher with BFRO. He's an author of Bigfoot books and his own alien encounter. We are going to get into these stories coming up right now. Carter, welcome back.
Thank you. It's been a blast. I almost wore my Dave Scott t-shirt tonight, but it's in the laundry. You do have good swag.
I do. And it's not ugly.
No, it's not
ugly at all.
It makes me look beautiful.
Well, thank you for wearing it. I appreciate that.
I wear it always, your shirt and your hat. I wear them often to play poker.
I love it. Love it. Appreciate that. I got a question for you. Out of all the Bigfoot stories you've heard, never mind the ones you've shared already tonight, what kind of story do you like? Do you like the ones with the close encounters? Do you like the ones where they're peering in windows? And can you share one with us?
Yeah, I have a family that has numerous interactions with them because they're growing a lot of food. They grow a lot of vegetables for farmers markets and stuff. So they have a big operation. So they see them often, and they have caught them raiding their greenhouses of food. I think I sent you a picture or two of that. But those are the ones that I really like because they tell me the story about, well, this juvenile that's been watching this, or this adult, or there's this little baby Sasquatch that comes around and seems to like to play with the kittens and stuff like that. Those are the kind of stories where I know that they've got a relationship with these beings that goes both ways. Because, who lets their animals play with a Sasquatch? Come in and take food from your operation. I mean, those are the ones, the interactions and the relationships that they've developed, where people give them names. Oh, that's Poppy. We call him Poppy because he always is making a popping sound with his mouth. Or they'll just they have affectionate names, so you know that they're entrenched in a relationship. Those are the stories that I really like, whether they're mine or anybody else's. That shows there's an interaction and a respect, and nobody has to do or say or see anything they don't want to. It's all a big fluid situation. And when I hear stories like that from other folks, and I hear that a lot from other folks, that, a friend of mine has a Sasquatch living on their property. They'll tell me about their friend who has a Sasquatch. And I wish that was me. I wish I could see one up close, that kind of stuff. That's the stuff that really just floats my boat big time, because I know the Sasquatch are wanting these relationships, and they're getting them, and they're proving to be good friends. They don't force it. They're just there for the having, and you know how to contact them or get them out there if you want to have an interaction. Maybe they show up, maybe they don't, but when they do, and they do often enough to make it something you do regularly, that's the kind of stuff I like. Not the, well, I saw one that had red glowing eyes. It was coming at me. I think it was going to kill me or wanted to eat me or kill my dog, or, they're not like that, with rare exception. That does happen, but far more positive interactions happen. Those are the ones I like. I hear from my people and other researchers that share their stories. That's the kind of stuff I like, because it's real. And they're interacting with us, and they're letting us know what it's like to get along with somebody that looks and smells a little different than we do.
In your opinion, are they friendly?
Yeah. Knock on wood, I have not had to run for my life. I have not had any of my people, my habituation witnesses, tell me of a horrible, nasty thing they did if it wasn't in direct correlation to something my people had done. Like they shot a gun in their direction, or they tore down a stick structure or something. That may get reactions, but for the most part, they're all just peaceful things. It's like, what was it, Rodney King? Can't we all just get along? I mean, that's kind of how their mantra seems to be. They just live and let live. They don't care what kind of car you have, or if you've got a big fancy house. They're more inclined to go up to a house that's a log cabin or a double wide or a single. You know what I mean? They're in a completely different world than we are. They're about living the life and being one with the planet and just getting along. And we all have drive and ambitions and want to do things, get material things, and hunt and kill to our wildest desire. And that's just not how they live. But those stories are the simple ones like that are the ones I like.
Let's get to an audience question here. T-Bone is asking, Carter, can you okay, so let me just explain this question. I sent you pictures of the face in the tree.
Yeah.
T-Bone wants to know, what is your thoughts on that, of the photograph we caught at our investigation site?
I looked at it this afternoon. I think it's the real deal. I tried to take it in on my camera programs, and I turned it to a grayscale, and then I went to a negative, and it didn't show near as much detail as I normally get when I switch it to a grayscale or black and white or a negative. So I kept it and just blew it up. And I was trying to get my filter to move this one branch, the one branch that's obfuscating his left eye. And I couldn't get my filter to focus in on that small of an area. It was user error, not Dave's picture. So, but that would, I say that's legit. And that looks like the real deal. And when I did get it to negative, it did have the two eyes and a mouth, just like it did in the picture, but it was actually more clear in the picture, which is usually not the case, because I get more data when I go into the workings.
What do you think we caught?
It looks like a juvie. I say it's a juvie, but there's a Sasquatch up there. There's something with dark brown hair and a brownish face, the coloration is brownish, a light brown. Maybe not tan, but it's kind of between flesh and brown. But it looks legit. Now, as far as putting it on Facebook and posting it, well, how do you know that's real? That's just a bunch of, you can't see what that is, Well, it's probably about the average photo you would get from somebody that's not prepared with a camera, waiting on a squatch to walk up to an area. That's just a random luck of the draw photo, and you're lucky to have gotten it. It's really cool. I like it. It's good. If somebody else sent me that, I'd be going, I need a little bit more clarity on this. I just, give me some backstory. But, I know Dave, and he's not that kind of person. So I know to believe that to be what it is. They saw it. They snapped a photo or two or three, and it's legit, in my opinion.
Appreciate that. I'm still fighting with it, to be blunt. I really am.
Well,
because here's my thing with it, okay? Because I've never been a researcher before. I'm an enthusiast, having to put a researcher's hat on now. And I want to be as thorough as I possibly know how to be, as amateur as I am, to try and recreate different things.
Yeah.
And we couldn't do it. We couldn't do it.
Sometimes
Nothing.
Yeah, sometimes you can't. As hard as you try, you can't. Now that photo I sent you of that face print, that one is like, it's hard to argue what that is unless you just want to argue that it's not what it is. But you can pick out the hair. There's nothing in the way. You can see where the eye sockets are, the nose, the mouth. You see the little hair follicles growing out of the scalp, going back over the head. I mean, it's not a clear photograph of a creature standing in the woods, but it's a clear photo of a creature pressing its face up against a plastic, moisture-laden thing that picks up its print like a photograph. That kind of stuff would kind of tilt you toward, I think I got something. I knew my people had something when they sent that to me, So, but you can't create it. You can't make it what it isn't. You see it, you're in the woods, you're spur of the moment, you got a camera, I got to fumble for it. My hands are shaking, I'm nervous. The trees are blowing, creatures leaving. I'm trying to get a photo. Why all the photos are crappy? Well, there's a reason for it. You're in a pressure situation trying to do something that takes more pressure and precision, getting out a camera, focus it, get it all ready. That's why all pictures suck, So, but
well, I get that.
Yeah.
I totally get that. Let's go to another question here. This one comes from B. Arthur, who is asking. It's more of a comment, but I'm putting this as a question. This goes back to when we were talking about, groups out there who are recording sightings, only covering the ones that suit their best interests. And B says, if we were truly using a scientific method, they would have to allow for any variable to be possible until it could be scientifically eliminated. I guess that's your argument.
Yeah. Well, here's the deal. Science doesn't want that to be, because science is on the payroll of the U.S. government. And so if they want to produce something, UFOs, UAPs, Sasquatch, Dogman, whatever, if they do it and the government don't like it, those grants stop coming. You will show things that we tell you can show. Don't do this, you can do this, but not that. Because science, until they get the go-ahead from the government, because the government's got a lot riding on hiding what's really going on with these beings. So anybody that's got grants, college classes, anything, if it has to be approved by the government, it ain't going to happen unless they put it forth. It's a funny thing that the UAPs, they're more forthright with that than they are with Sasquatch. So that tells you something right there. The inability or inactivity of showing these and showing why they're fake. They don't even bother with it because there's something going on they don't want us to know. Pure and simple. That's just the way it is. There's something they don't want us to know. What it is, we got a pretty good idea. They may or may not be from this planet. They may have been here before we got here, and they are from this planet. And if you go back to the Anunnaki and the Sumerian tales of where the Sasquatch and humans really came from, it gets really dicey and complex. And science doesn't like that. Science likes to be in control. We're humans. We evolved from dumb apes or Cro-Magnon or Denisovans or whatever. They have their agenda, and if you rock that boat, you're not getting anywhere. So we try to use a scientific method. Being laymen, you know what to do to a degree. I mean, how many researchers run around with DNA kits? Those that are tuned into what they might run into. But why is all DNA that's sent in? Oh, it's a deer, it's a dog. Oh, it's been compromised. We can't tell what. There's too many people handling it. Whatever you send in, and then the DNA disappears on top of that. There's something going on.
Kind of weird how that works.
Yeah.
And it isn't a shot at the scientific community, but it is a shot when it comes to like things like cryptids, the narrow-mindedness that seems to follow, whether it's brought on by grants or 10 years at universities or different companies.
Mm-hmm.
I just would love a little bit more open mind. Let's get to another question here from our great listeners. Mike is saying, when you observed the Sasquatch disappear in front of you, did you feel anything like an electric discharge, time shift, a rush of air?
I did think I felt a rush of air, and I wasn't sure if that was me being excited and moving around a little bit, or when that flash went off, it was like a little force field came at me. I mean, I liken it to a flash bulb going off and you're at night and you see it and you got spots in front of your eyes. That's the only thing I saw. And hey, Mike, by the way, we chat a lot. He's a good guy. But I didn't feel anything other than I saw it, and I felt the sensation of I was blinded, just like somebody putting a 500-watt bulb in front of your face. You flash bulb, couldn't see it. No, there was nothing. And it could have been that there might have been something, and I was so taken aback that I probably may have missed it. What do I care about a rush of air when I'm seeing this 7-foot-tall being that doesn't exist disappear in front of me? I'm a little more excited about that. But that's something that, like Mike said, that's a good question and good follow-up to notice everything. When I saw that, I was brand new to the research arena. So I wasn't expecting that. And when I saw it, I didn't know what to do with it other than just stand there and go, yeah, awesome. That was it. So, but if you are a researcher, you should go out with the expectation and being prepared physically with equipment that would help you assess what's going on if you have the time to use it. That's the thing. Every time somebody is confronted with a situation, you're in a heap of a big hurry to get a picture or something, and you can't do it. You're fumbling, you're freaked out. You're just standing there staring like, I'd rather just look at this than try to get a picture because I'll never forget this. This is awesome. So, a picture's worth 1,000 words, but a memory is worth forever, So if I had the choice, I'd probably want to watch and be able to diagram every move, then get a picture that's blurry and it's moving, or if it's, coming into or out of view, metaphysically, quantum wise, it's just going to be a blurry mass of garbage. So I'd rather see it and be able to describe it in great detail than get a picture that looks like crap. That's just me, because everybody's got crappy pictures. I got 500 of them. I'll show them to you. Let's just do a show on crappy photos.
There's too many blob squatches out there.
Oh yeah,
There
yeah.
really is.
Red circles are declining in population here. I've noticed lately. But yeah,
My favorite ones are the ultra zoomed in, where it's so pixelated and you're literally looking at green squares all over the place. And they're like, can't you see the eyes? Can't you
Yeah.
see the eyes?
See them all the
You
time.
know?
And
Exactly.
you have to be kind sometimes to go, yeah, I think I see it, but
Seymour is asking you, Carter. So we got about 3.5 minutes.
Okay.
What's a Bigfoot researcher's threshold of evidence?
threshold as in
Probably. What would you need as evidence to make it legitimate?
well, other than the things I've seen or experienced, it's the photos that people send me or that I've taken that leave no doubt. I mean, you see some of the things that people send me, and they are quite impressive. They're not faking that stuff. There's dermal ridges on these fingers that are the handprints. I've got one that's 12 inches from the base of your palm to the tip of your middle finger. And so what being with those dimensions is walking around? I mean, who could do that? You don't have a lot of choices. And the fact that it's there and there's dermal ridges on these fingerprints and handprints, you can't, I mean, you could fake it, but why would you? And, knowing the people, the credibility of the people I'm dealing with, and I've been dealing with them for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, you just believe them. And they don't want anything. That's why, they don't want anything for what they're giving you other than to hear you go, thank you. That looks great. Or I'm not sure, but thanks a lot for that. Anyway, that's really awesome. They just want to know they're contributing. So if they hand me something and I know these people from the bottom of my heart and from the bottom of their hearts, I take it as gold. I can't doubt it. And I tell them if it's like marginal, they'll tell me if my opinion is marginal. Well, I saw it and you didn't. I understand. But, if you want to prove it to the world, we need something better than a blob squatch photo. So, but, the stuff that I've gotten and seen now that I know what to look for, footprints, handprints, hair stuck in a barbed wire fence, stuck on a piece of bark on a tree. I mean, little things like that, that shouldn't be there, but they are. You go, so.
I always look at it like, if I were to need evidence, it's my own eyes. I'm not trying to prove this for anybody else.
Yeah.
It's just me.
Mm-hmm.
Because the minute you try and prove it to the world, you are going to get shot down as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
And because those people weren't there, no matter what, they aren't going to believe you. It's a sad note, but that's why I say be a little selfish. When you're out there investigating, be a little selfish. Tell people about your experiences. Don't bring the proof. The only thing trying to show proof or evidence does is cause conflict for you.
Yeah.
Because you know what you got. Others may not, and others will, go all internet on you. Carter, I'm going to get you to hold on right there because we are going to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. Author and researcher Carter Buschardt. You can find his books on Amazon, and more Bigfoot alien talk after this.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
Sometimes my audience bugs me because I'm always talking about poop. Jarrett's in the chat room says, "Don't forget Dave's poop examinations," and I put in, "You always know your poop."
Is this a personal affliction you have, or some kind of?
No, when you go into the forest, you should always know what animal scat looks like.
Oh yeah.
It can save you. Hi, Arthur. Welcome to SOR Chat. So you learn your poop.
Yeah. Well, those like my lady in Washington State, the Sasquatch, her and her husband and her son had gone to great trouble to dig a 2.5, 3 foot hole to put this giant post in to put chicken wire to block them from stealing their fruit and vegetables. They woke up the next morning, the fence post, which took 2 grown men, several hundred pounds, it was lifted out of the ground and thrown into the garden. And there was about a 2 foot, maybe a little bit longer circle of Sasquatch shit going all around the circle. She said it was so perfectly, it was like it was made for that opening. It was so close to the edge, another half inch, it would have fallen in. She said it was a perfect shove it, humans, because what they were doing was trying to block them from being able to see what they were doing in the house. And by putting up that chicken wire fence, they were blocking their access to the big window in the back of the house, and they're also blocking their access to the vegetable garden. So she knew exactly who did it. It was a beautiful circle of poop. She didn't think of taking a picture at the time. It happened years before she decided to start coming forward. But it was a beautiful poop. I mean, she was describing this log.
It's got to be beautiful if you're willing to take a picture of it.
Oh yeah, and it had the little seeds in it and stuff, but it was bigger. She said it was way bigger than a human. She knows bear scat. Bear is more of like almost cattle, more flat and squat rather than the logs, But that was awesome, So there's poop stories out there. There's a lot of good poop stories. We had to show them that picture of that face.
Let me bring it up here.
Are we on? Or are we waiting for the?
Well, we're still on YouTube, but
Okay.
Give me 2 seconds. Oh no, I didn't want the pop-up ad. Where is it?
And there's a great story behind that. The face, the handprint, and the handprint over the door. Great story that goes with that. But look at that. If when you blow it up, you can see the little individual hairs coming out of the head, going back. I mean, you can see all of that. For some reason, it reminds me of Steppenwolf album.
That's my dog.
Sure.
That's my dog.
There you puppy.
There we go.
That's a great picture. In the story, the kid went in to check because they'd been losing food to the Sasquatch, and he wanted to catch him, see who it was, make sure it wasn't the neighbor. It was a Sasquatch. And so the motion light went out. See, there's that handprint. So what they do is they stand up next to the plastic and they look out for the humans. And there's a print. That print is 11.5 inches from the base of his palm to the tip. That is those 2 photos are really good. You see that hand on the left?
Yeah.
And the deer on the right?
Yeah.
WTF. Is that bizarre?
Totally bizarre.
That is a work of art. right there.
All right, hold on right there, my friend.
Okay.
Thank you to T-Bone times 2, Trucker Andrew, and Mel WD40 for the super chats. Reminder, our store is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag, so make sure you check it on out. Carter Buschardt returning till the top of the hour. Here we go in 7 seconds.
Seven.
Here comes the second half of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Always appreciate you wearing a little tinfoil with us when we take you down these nightly adventures of the woo. Carter Buschardt is here. We got him till the top of the hour. We're going to have some fun talking about monsters with you. But first, we want to remind all of you that if you miss portions of this show or others, you can always check out our free archives on YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Here's Carter Buschardt. We're hanging on out. We're talking about Bigfoot. We're taking some audience questions. You have an eerie encounter with Dogman that you covered at a greenhouse. So I want you to tell us about this.
Well, it's the greenhouse with that face print. That was where that happened. The kid was in there, and he's the guy that has all the up close and personal encounters, more so than the rest of the family combined. But that's the reason. But he's working that operation mostly during the day. They're out doing other things, business stuff. He's out doing the actual farming and everything. So I think that's why he has all the action. But the kid, I call him a kid, he's 25. He was in the greenhouse one day, and it's like a Quonset hut. You know, it's the arched, like the old army barracks, but the old Quonset hut. It's a curved, big, long thing. It's about 30 feet long, and they have this big, heavy plastic stretched over it. And they run propane heaters during the winter. They have pipes going in. They have a propane heater between the two greenhouses. They have many greenhouses, but between two, there's a pipe going out into each one to keep it nice and warm and moist for in the winter so things don't freeze. Anyway, he was in there one day. This was about 2 months ago. He sent me these pictures. He called me. He's kind of frantic. And we were just talking. And he said, I was in there just doing some pruning and, you know, making sure everything was watered and blah, 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 doing my thing. And I look outside and there's a Sasquatch, a dog man. And it is, I'm using this toothpick because it's taking its finger with a really long, sharp nail. Now, grant you, it's 3:00 in the afternoon, broad daylight, beautiful sunny day. There's no mistake what he's looking at. And he's just frozen. But this dog man's looking at him like, you're nothing. Go on about your business. Do your thing. So he was taking his finger and he was poking little tiny pinprick holes in the plastic. He was telling me, I thought that he was looking at it like he'd never seen or touched plastic before, because he was just gingerly, like, you know, poking holes, and said, well, it's not bleeding. It's not, I'm poking holes. And usually when I poke with my big long fingernails, things die or bleed. It was very quizzical. It had the ears that went up and they're kind of flopping a little bit, and it was doing this. And it just watched him. For about 10 minutes, this went on. And then it took his claw, big, long claw, and ran it down and sliced the plastic wide open. You could have stuck your whole hand and arm through there. You could have reached through there and grabbed the kid. He didn't. I mean, this is the type of activity many of my witnesses are used to. They see the Sasquatch, they see dogmen, and they're not attacked. or threatened in any way. They're just going about their business, doing their thing. It's bizarre. So you see, the growling, snarling, evil beings is counterproductive to what they really are. That doesn't mean a dog man's not going to rip your head off if you look at it funny. If you're out in the wild and you're threatening him, or you have a gun or something, they don't know what you're going to do, you know. But they hunt, they fish, they do things. They see them with guns, and the Sasquatch, and now the dog man on their property, think nothing of it because they know they're not coming after them. If they were, they wouldn't even be there. See, that's the other thing, you know. Why would a Sasquatch want to get involved with a family that's out shooting stuff? Well, they know they're not wastefully hunting. They're not killing for thrill. They're not killing for a trophy on the wall. They're killing to feed their families, which is what the Sasquatch do. So if they were the type of people that would just go randomly shooting and killing things, Sasquatch probably wouldn't be hanging around that property. But they do, because there's food, there's human interaction, which they are seeking, and they're just seeking a commonality with us. Hard to wrap your head around, I know, but it's just bizarre, you know?
Totally bizarre, man.
Yeah.
Totally bizarre. All right. You know, the one thing about Dogman, why do you think we appreciate Sasquatch but absolutely fear Dogman?
Well, part of it is we're used to Sasquatch. And like I'm speaking, and many, many, many other people across the country and the world are dealing with Sasquatch on a completely peaceful level. It's like they're friends or family. You see them and interact, and there's not a lot of animosity or tension going on, with rare exception. The Dogman is new to this, and it's always portrayed as that snarling, growling, bloodthirsty being. Don't go to LBL. Don't go to the woods without somebody with you or without a firearm, because these dogmen will eat you first and ask questions later and all that kind of stuff. Same thing that happened with Sasquatch when they first became a thing, you know. But that stuff doesn't happen. You know, dogman, that jury's still out. You know, like my witness was sitting there. This dogman was just sitting there playing with plastic like a child, just like, oh, I wonder what that is. Oh, that's cool. You know, I mean, how innocent is that? You know, it wasn't trying to kill it, and it could have reached through there and ripped his throat out. It had no intention to do it. They just, the people that are in the habituation, you know, the definition of habituation is repeated acts that reduce the amount of surprise you have with the fact that something is there. It's just you get so used to it that it's not a big thing. And so they're used to seeing the humans. The humans are used to seeing them. So it's the same thing with the dog. I think the dogman's getting the bad rap right now. It could be deserved. I don't know. I've only come up with this one. I've taken 2 other dogman reports. Neither involved an attack on the humans. Twice, the first 2 reports I took were right after a Sasquatch sighting in the same area, same conservation area here in Missouri. So do they hunt in packs? Do they hunt with each other? Don't know. A lot of times I've seen big hulking humanoid shapes backlit by the moon or ambient light in the forest at night. I just assume there's Sasquatch, something that size. But now that dogman has entered the fray, I can't say that everything I saw, you know, I didn't see the, you know, straight up ears and any of that kind of stuff. And by the way, all the people described the backward legs. In fact, my guy that I was just talking about, he said the back assward legs. That's how they talk country. And that back assward legs.
Let's go to a question here from Benno. It says, I mean this respectfully, Carter.
Yeah.
Did any pee come out when you came face to face with that Bigfoot?
No. I was too shocked and probably a little freaked out when I saw that. I pee or defecating on myself was the last thing on my mind. I would go, what? I want to tell somebody I can't. They're all idiots here. I can't talk to them. What do I do? So but no, I am used to it. I get excited. I'm not frightened anymore, because that's the other thing about doing this for a while. You're not afraid of it because they're not here to hurt you unless you're here to hurt them, like any human. And even at that, they will most of the time turn and get out of there rather than engage you. Because if they take one of us out, guess how many of us are going to come looking for them with guns? Hundreds. They don't want that. They'll just walk away from it because they can, because they know we can't really hurt them. So no, I'm at peace with that. They know me, I know them, and I'm going to have a positive outcome on all my. Of course, if you find my body ripped to shreds, you'll think of the last words I said and go, "Well, you were wrong on that one, Carter." But no, I have no fear, no trepidation at all about having interactions. None whatsoever.
All right, let's go to Juan here, or Jose, pardon me. Have you ever had multiple cryptid sightings in the same area? Dogman Bigfoot or low crawler dogman, etc.?
Yeah, there's a family that has been shown their babies. They've sent me pictures, which I cannot share, but they show them to the people whose land they're living on or adjacent to. My one couple here in Missouri often sat on the front porch with them and thrown sticks and rocks back and forth at the Sasquatch across the road, and call them out, and they call me back in my exact voices. I do that with them. I've done that several times. So, but I've not seen them, but they have shown me the pictures of the adult and the now adolescent. He's probably 4 years old in our years. He got out and walked his dog every morning. About 7 o'clock, he'd walk his dogs about a half a mile up to the mailbox and get the mail and come back. That's the exercise for the dogs. Big, bad, protecting dog, so he stays in the pen all day. But one morning, when Witness and the dog were walking toward the mailbox, he had seen this several times before. The Sasquatch would reach out, peek out from behind a tree, and just watch him, see what he was doing. Just watch him like that. One morning, it's a female, and she's got a baby, and she does just like that. He's going, oh my God. It was like it was holding a little chimp, It wasn't even totally full of hair. So about a year ago, they sent me a photo of a Sasquatch posing in front of the camera, backlit by the morning sun coming up. So all you see is his shadow and silhouette. And in front of him, you can barely make it out, but it's a juvenile Sasquatch. They're showing my people their little boy or girl has grown up and is still there. I've got pictures like that, and they would be called blob squatch on steroids, but I know what they are, and I can take them and work with them on photo ops, photo programs, and get what I'm seeing. I could already tell it, and he told me what it was. I knew right it was, and he was so happy when they were giddy when he called me. Oh, Junior's grown up. Junior's grown up. They haven't even given him a name yet because they haven't seen him a whole lot. But so that's the kind of stuff. I have not been privileged enough to see them in person myself. I'm shown pictures and told stories. But I got a lot of stories like that. It's just bizarre. So it's flattering too.
Totally bizarre, man.
Yeah, yeah.
Totally bizarre. Let's go to another question here. Let's go to Joe. Why can't all the unknown DNA samples be matched against each other?
Not saying they're not. They just tell us the data is inconclusive, contaminated. It's deer, it's a dog, it's a wolf, it's anything other than what you want it to be. And oh, I'm so sorry we lost the sample. But we had to destroy it anyway because we do that kind of when we test. If it's not a big sample. So I guarantee you the government has done, Joe, what you just suggested. They know what we're dealing with. They don't want us to know for whatever reason. And you can all imagine the reasons if they have anything to do with ETs or extraterrestrials or anything of having powers and skills that we do not have, and they do, and we do not. We used to have those skills. But so that's why one of many reasons we don't know what's going on. But I guarantee you the government and other scientific entities have done exactly what you suggested. Who wouldn't? You just don't want anybody to know the answer.
Very true. Very, very true. Let's go to another question here. Let's go to Babylon. Have you ever known of a Sasquatch committing an actual sin?
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 I'm trying to think of you speaking of biblical sins, like the Ten Commandments.
I don't know.
I've never seen or even heard of a Sasquatch doing something that anybody thought was evil. And 3 of my 7 or 8 hardcore families that I'm in contact with, they're devout Christians. So if they were to do something, they would probably tell me and be embarrassed about it. That's how devout they are. So they probably would have told me if they said, but I'm not sure exactly what you mean by an actual sin. If you're talking biblically, I've heard of nothing, and I've not seen anything. You know, thou shalt not kill. They kill to eat. They don't kill for thrill like humans do. So there's one sin. That's the only thing I can think of. Do not covet thy neighbor. Well, the Sasquatch dude, he's kind of cute. Maybe you know what I mean. I don't think I've seen or heard of anything from my people that they've told me.
All right, let's move on to another one here, my friend. Let's go to Jose. Maybe due to territorial circumstances, have you ever witnessed a fight breaking out between Bigfoots and Dogman, or do they usually generally avoid each other?
I am being told, and this is just in the last couple of years, that they believe they hunt together. So I don't think they avoid each other. I have heard a lot of stories about these incredible fights, but without an actual recording of a dog man, what his actual day-to-day sounds are in anger and joy and happiness, eating, whatever, you really don't know what those sounds are. So, if I hear something of that nature, it's usually 2 Sasquatch fighting. It's usually an adult, maybe tossing out a juvenile that just is rogue and gone rogue and doesn't want to obey the family values and be careful and all that. So, but I've never witnessed it. I've heard about yelling and screaming, but I don't think anybody has told me yet that they've heard a dog man and a Sasquatch fighting. Because I'm told otherwise that they do hunt as companions. You're chasing this way, I'll go this way, I'll get them, we'll share the kill and go on, just like, Sasquatch would do with a fellow Sasquatch. Good question, though. Entirely possible.
T-Bone wants to know, in your opinion, are 3-letter agencies and Sasquatch tied together?
I certainly hope not. But I think in that I truly believe, as do many researchers, that the government knows full well what they are and why they're here or why they're still here. That we aren't being told for some incredible reason. And if there's another 3-letter term, UFO, UAP, you could throw that in there, because there are stories of people seeing them as abductees on spacecraft. Not a lot, but there's a few. And so, yeah, I think they know what's going on. And I don't think they're working hand in hand, but they certainly don't get in each other's way either. I don't think. As long as you don't do something stupid, don't go killing humans, do what you're going to do.
There would be, and I've said this on the show before, there would be multi-billions of dollars lost if they closed down the forest to a new creature the size of Sasquatch or the size of Dogman. You have to think, forestry would be shut down in that area. It's like if they find an endangered species or an animal or a bird or something on an endangered species list, they quarantine that area because they want to know how many are in that area. They want to know what are they feeding on, where are their homes. They're going to try and do a count. They're going to try and do absolutely everything to save that area. They shut down forestry. They shut down hiking. They shut down every part of that area, and they study it until they can study no more.
Yeah.
Right? And if they did that in the forest for Bigfoot and Dogman, a lot of the forests in North America would be shut down to forestry, to mining, to fishing, to camping, to hiking, and any other outdoor activity, snowmobiling, skiing, cross-country skiing, be shut down. And that would take billions out of the economies of both countries if you start shutting down tourism.
Yeah.
Or work.
Yeah, I agree with that to a degree. There are, it's a money thing, but that's sad. But how about the research? How about if we are related to these beings? To me, that outweighs any kind of financial thing, because if we are related and they're not maiming us and ripping us to shreds as we go through the forests, the national forest, paying, so much money per car or whatever, they're not tearing us apart, Dogman or Sasquatch. So what's the threat about telling us? Because you've told us they don't exist, and if they do, they're going to eat your babies. So they've instilled the fear in us with false narrative. People live with them, they see them, nothing happens. You only hear about violence when you are using violence or trying to kill one of them, with a rare exception. They don't like dogs. Other than that, you just don't hear much. So I agree with the monetary fear, loss of that income, but nothing's happening to people other than, you get into the 411 stuff where they're disappearing in caves and stuff like that, but that could be a lot of different things. That could be, just stupidity and they get eaten and dragged away. They never find them. Could be UFOs, could be Dogman or Sasquatch, could be they fell and drowned. But a lot of things could happen. And it sensationalizes things, which makes us fear them. So it makes us think they're evil when they're really not, because we don't know. Has anyone survived a verified Sasquatch attack? Gotten the story out? No. Yes. No. Other than Ape Canyon or, the Howard Osman, or what's his name? Osman, the guy that got kidnapped.
Albert Osman, yes.
Yeah. So but even then,
Carter, it's that time of the night to say goodnight to you. Find Carter's books on Amazon. We got Swamp Dweller and Extra Small coming up next with a Q&A.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
All right, Carter, thank you very much, buddy, for coming back on.
It was awesome. It's a good show.
Always awesome with you.
Good exchange.
Always.
Oh, thank you. No, it's good exchange. And good questions. I'm reading some of these questions now. There's some real good questions on here.
They're good stuff, man.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Are you going to do another meet and greet or thing in Vegas?
Probably next year.
Yeah.
Next year in Vegas.
All right.
Yeah.
Well,
I'll let you know.
If I'm still one of the cool guys, give me an invite.
You are always one of the cool guys. We got to play poker together.
Yeah, I need some of your money, or I'll let you take some of mine.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Talk to you later, buddy.
All right, man. Take care. Thanks.
Good night. Carter Buschardt, everybody. We love him around here, and I will take his money at the poker table. I'll be right back. to go here. Debaruni, nice to see you. Contrary One, nice to have you back. All right, for the Q&A, after Swamp Dweller, you can start putting your questions in for Lee and myself. That's right. We got about 35 seconds. Thank you to T-Bone ×2, Trucker Andrew, and Mel WD40 for the Super Chats. Hi, Frost Kitten. Hope you're doing well. Our store is always open. Why is it open? Because we do not have ugly swag. Hopefully we're going to add more soon. And here we go. Hard to believe we're already in the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you for tuning us in, where we talk weird and strange topics each and every night here on the mighty SOR. Hey, we want to say hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. What do you got for us tonight, Clam? Damnification. Damnification is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night, right here on Spaced Out Radio. Let's head to the swamp.
Hello, and welcome to Spaced Out Radio's Swamp. I'm Swamp Dweller, and tonight I'm going to take you on a mystic journey of the unknown, sharing tales of monsters, legends, and nightmares. Welcome to the Spaced Out Radio Swamp. I went on a little hiking trip with my dad to Mount Shasta, California, a small town in Northern California near the Oregon border. Shasta is home to a potentially active volcano named, of course, Mount Shasta. There are many trails on Mount Shasta, so my father and I were excited to do some hiking. We drove up the side of the mountain to the parking lot in which one of the trails began. I believe it was called the Old Ski Bowl Trail. The landscape was a very barren incline, filled with rocks, boulders, dirt, and very few trees. About an hour into the trail, we came across a very odd assembly of these large boulders. They were arranged in a circle. We thought it was strange, but we continued. If you look up pictures of the trail, you'll see much smaller rocks arranged in patterns and circles. My father and I only encountered 3 people. At least, that's what they appeared to be at first. The first 2 were a father and son. We met them on a steep incline that went along the wall of the cliff, that when we would switch back, it would take you to the top of the cliff. We stopped and said hello, talked about the trail, and then went our separate ways. Here's where it gets weird. My dad and I started walking up the incline for about 2 minutes. I turned around and I saw the father and son were incredibly far down the trail, almost like they had teleported. It should have taken them at least 20 minutes to get down there from where they were. But somehow, in only about 2 minutes, they have gotten down way further than possible. To this day, I have absolutely no idea how that could have happened. There was no one else on that trail at that point, and I could see the color of their clothes from the distance, so I knew it was them. I pointed it out to my dad. We thought it was weird, but we didn't want to dwell on it, so we just kept on moving. And here's where it starts to get much weirder. As we reached the top of the cliff, there was another strange rock arrangement that was off to the side of the trail. This time, there were far more rocks than before, and they were now arranged in rows, almost like gravestones. We continued the trail and reached another sort of incline with a switchback to reach the top of another cliff. We reached a point where we would need climbing gear to continue, so we decided to head back. When we turned around, I saw a man standing among the rocks, staring at us intently. He was wearing a button-up shirt, cargo shorts, and a wide-brimmed straw hat. He was at a distance where I should have been able to make out his facial features, but it was almost like he didn't have any, like his face was just flesh and skin. I pointed him out to my dad, and the man quickly ducked down behind a boulder and was peering out at us over the top of the boulder. It seemed almost playful, like a child trying to hide. For a few moments, I was almost out of it. I have no recollection of what was going on. According to my dad, I just started walking towards the man in the hat. My dad was calling to me, "Joshua, Josh, what are you doing? Where are you going?" And then I came to. I was standing right at the edge of the cliff. It was a huge drop, enough to kill me or seriously injure me. My dad grabbed me and pulled me back onto the trail. He told me to stay put. My dad went down to the boulders to search for the man, but he wasn't there. There was nowhere for him to go except down or up the trail. It didn't make any sense. He just simply disappeared. I have no idea what was going on in that trail, and I have no explanation for it. I've told this many times to family and friends, and no one has an explanation. I've done my fair amount of research and found similar stories about encounters with a man with no facial features wearing a hat. I've also read that Native American tribes from that area viewed Mount Shasta as a holy site. They believed it could act as a portal to other dimensions, and that it was guarded by spirits who would potentially harm anyone who tried to go up the volcano. If anybody has had any similar experiences or any insight at all, I would love to hear.
Thank you, Swamp Dweller, for another great story. If you want more just like that, head on over to YouTube, type in Swamp Dweller, and hit subscribe, ring that bell. He's got thousands of stories for you to listen to each and every night. Time for the Q&A. Extra small Lee Strauss hanging on out with us once again to have some fun. How you doing, buddy?
Oh my gosh, Dave. I'm happy to be here, man. But there is something that's happened on the previous show, during my show, that I don't have an explanation for. So I was
Let's tell our audience about your show first.
Okay, so I'm Element 115. Dave, you had me, we talked and you said, well, I said I would like to do a show, and now we got the show. Anyway, so Tim James and I were on with a guest named Scott Brush. He was telling his Bigfoot encounter, and I didn't hear this and I didn't even know about it, but Tim said, "Hey, did you hear that?" And I'm like, "Did I hear what?" And he said, "There was a serious low growl in the audio." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And he said, at 32 minutes and 50 seconds, there was a crazy growl. And I said, "Okay, now I'm gonna look, right? I'm gonna check this out." Dave, I don't know where the heck that came from, but it is seriously loud and seriously deep. Guttural growl that came through the audio.
Oh, that just gives me the shivers just hearing that.
It was like, just this deep guttural. I don't know if it was like demonic or something was coming through. You know what I mean? I have no idea, but it was crazy.
Well, I hope that doesn't give us Tim and I a precursor for going out in the forest, or you a precursor of going out in the forest.
Yeah, because I'm planning on going out soon at some point. So
me too.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe it's something pre-warning us, right?
That is creepy, my friend.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna have to cut that up and put that on our shorts for our YouTube channel.
I've already cut it. I've already got it in a blip. It actually happens twice in the audio.
Really?
Yes.
How far apart?
It's about 20 seconds.
No way. Oh,
yeah.
Did you figure out whose audio it was bleeding through?
No, Tim. In fact, Tim, you should see his face. He's like, "What the heck is that? Like, what?" You could see it in his face, like he's so surprised because he's wearing headphones and he's hearing it. It just totally freaked him out.
That is creepy, man. Creepy.
Yeah. And our guest doesn't have dog. He has cats. But this thing sounded like another being from a different dimension or something. Anyway.
Oh man.
Just wild.
We've had some weird stuff over the years happen on this show.
Yeah.
That one would rank up there. Totally rank up there.
Absolutely.
I wanted to chat with you tonight about debunking.
Yeah.
Because you're a very naturally skeptical person. You're always looking for logic over the illogical. Even though you go searching for Sasquatch, you go searching for UFOs and whatever else is out there in the forest, paranormal, supernatural events. Why is it important to try and debunk it all?
Well, if you can debunk your own material, it's huge, right? I mean, not only does that show people that you are actually vested in finding out the truth, if you can debunk your own stuff and say, put it up online, for instance, and say, okay, this is what happened. I caught this object. I thought for sure it was a UFO, and it turned out to be a moth flying through a beam from a headlamp, which has happened before, right? But so I'm taking that, for instance, I saw it out of the corner of my eye. I thought it was sure a UFO. And of course, once you get the footage home and then you show people, this is good information for people to learn, right? So that they don't make that same mistake, right? It's important to show where things are a plausible, something that you could not put your finger on, even if it's okay. Well, you don't know it's a UFO. Let's say, well, it was a possible satellite, or it was a possible this, or a possible that. It's important to teach as many people as you can on the things that are known, so that when they're looking through their footage, so they can capture the unknown. Does that make sense?
Totally makes sense.
Yes.
Here's the thing. Like, if I look at what Tim and I are doing right now, and you're going to be joining us for a weekend in August.
Yeah.
For that. Like, take that potential photo of a Sasquatch that we caught in the tree.
Yeah.
Tim caught it. We tried for about 45 minutes last week to debunk it. We did every angle we could, and we actually found the tree where the alleged face was coming at. We could not recreate that whatsoever. And in fact, if you zoom in on the photo, which you can find on our Facebook page, on our social media pages, there is a curved stick sticking up right in front of its face. We cannot find that stick either.
That's bizarre.
We found the trees. We were able to find the trees. We were able to find everything around it. We could not recreate that photo. And how we know it's the right tree was because the tree happened to be right where Tim and I got spooked by a grouse. We didn't see it beside us, and all of a sudden it took off and flew up into the tree. So if you if you zoom in on the Sasquatch photo into the tree branches, you'll actually see the grouse in the tree. So that's what we were able to go on the area. Then we were able to match up branches with what was in the photo. And then we were able, so we did it step by step, just trying to find, okay, let's put the puzzle pieces together.
Yeah.
And there is no way, my man, absolutely no way that we could recreate that face.
Okay. So is this in a location where you might have been able to see your vehicle as well?
No.
Okay. So do you know what I'm getting at here?
No.
I'm getting at like reflections off of mirrors, off of chrome, off of something, you know what I mean? Up into the tree. Anything that was shiny, metallic, that
Okay.
sort of
Yeah.
thing.
No. No. We are on a side trail,
Hmm.
probably 200 yards from my vehicle.
Okay. Okay. So it's a good possibility, Dave, that you just caught something that is unknown. I mean, we didn't necessarily see a body in that photo, right? There's no
No,
body,
we
there's
just.
just a face.
But if you look at the trees, it looks
Hmm.
like the body would be hidden.
Yeah. Hmm.
And it's just the face looking at us. It's just the combination. And look, I want to believe that it is a Bigfoot face.
Hmm.
I've tried to debunk it with Tim. We
Hmm.
can't debunk it. Okay.
So
Here,
saying
here,
that,
yeah.
saying
But
that,
here's the thing. Here's
okay.
the thing. Let me just finish with this. In regards to what happened, we tried to figure out every angle possible
Mhm.
of where it was, which tree it was. We eventually found the tree that it would have been standing up. And it's a small tree. It's only about 20, 25 feet high.
Mhm.
And it's very thin. So for it to hold the body of, say, a 400-pound creature, it would have been difficult.
Hmm.
So there is something that, like, we're still unsure. We're about 75% sure that we caught what we think we caught.
Yeah.
Because it also comes on the heels of us going in and on a whim calling up Robin Haynes
Hmm.
and her saying, don't forget to look in the trees. The kids are going to be in the trees.
Hmm. Yep. So take that photo at face value, right? That it was a Sasquatch in the tree. Okay. Everything else but the face seemed to be cloaked. So what does that tell you? What does that tell you about their abilities?
Well, I mean, there is that, or because the thickness of the tree in front of it could have been blocking the body.
Okay. But not the face for some reason.
Not the face.
Yeah.
No.
Okay. Well, from studying that photo, what I believe I'm seeing is possibly a Bigfoot face. What that tells me is that there have some ability to cloak. That's what I see, which is not out of the realm of ability
Right.
because we've seen that sort of activity before, even on thermal, where it seems like they just phase out when you get close to them. So that's a good possibility. Yep, you're bringing it up.
So our radio audience can't see this, but on the YouTube side, if you go there to check it on out in the archive, you can actually, like when we were there, if you look above the circle where Tim has circled the face, if you go
Mhm.
up to the big thick branch and go to the left, you'll see the grouse sitting in the tree.
Yeah.
Okay. So we were able to find behind the tree, to describe it for our radio audience, behind the big tree, there are two smaller trees, which looks like that you could see the sticks or
Trunk.
the trunks going up. Thank you.
Mhm.
We were able to find that exact spot. We were able, right behind those trunks, there is a yellowish type tree because of the sunshine. It's actually
Mhm.
green, but it looks yellow in the photo. We were able to find that. That was about a 25-foot tree. So this thing, whatever it is literally sitting in the tree.
Yeah, so it could be obscured by some branches, like the
It's
body
being obscured
portion.
by the thicker branches of the first tree that are laying out.
Okay. So yes, it's very possible. So let's just take that at face value and say that that's what we're looking at is an actual Sasquatch in a tree. It's a great capture, right? It's 1 in a million, right? Or maybe more even. So
Could be.
it could be. Nevertheless, is what it tells us is that there is some sort of activity happening in there, in that location, right? Which you've already know because that spot has been hot for quite a while, as long as you've been going there.
Correct.
Right. So if you kind of weigh the preponderance of things happening in that location and not happening, you have you have to believe that that's what you're seeing as an actual Sasquatch because of the activity there before, because of how clear the photo looks once you zoom in to that face. I would just say that let's see if you can't capture it again, maybe in a different location in that area. You know what I mean? And if you can,
very true.
If you can, then you're pretty much repeating the same phenomena.
And that's the hard part, is trying to get that repetition. You know, because it's hard for me because I've experienced so much, Lee, over the last 13, 14 years, that it's very difficult for me not to believe it. I am fighting everything that I can rather than what I've learned over the last 14 years is just accept that the phenomena is real and the phenomena shows you things.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Here, if I put a researcher's hat on, I want to make sure. I want to be as close to 100% as possible. With this, and the face being so clear in that photograph, I want to be 100%. Now, a lot of people who are looking at it on our YouTube channel are going to say, "What? That looks blurry. That looks as..." Yes, because I zoomed it in.
Right.
I zoomed it in to make the face look larger because I see the face clearly. Some people can't.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
That's on them for doing that. You know? So we were able, during that time, we were able to get there and do this around the exact same time as the previous time we were there. We caught that photo around 9 p.m. Pacific, and then we were back there, I think, around 9:03 p.m. 3 minutes shouldn't make that much of a difference, especially when we were closer to the solstice rather than the previous time we were there. So it was very interesting indeed.
Yeah, I have no I mean it looks like Sasquatch to me. I don't think that it could be something else other than some sort of phenomena of some sort.
Oh, very true.
It almost looks transparent in a way, and that's the only reason why I would say that, you know, this Sasquatch might be mixed with some other phenomena. Maybe it's, you know, disappearing or appearing or phasing in and out or whatever you want to call it, but something is actually going on there. We just don't have the understanding to put you know, a name to it, basically. So
well, on that note, hold right there, Lee, because we're going to continue the debate. Should we debunk or should we accept when the phenomena gives us a treat on Spaced Out Radio?
This is Spaced Out Radio and your host, Dave Scott.
Well, I'll tell you, there's some other stuff that's going on as far as the evidence is concerned right now with the fact that there's been some shavings taken of that orb in South America.
Yeah.
And from what I understand and from what I've heard in the past, that you can't cut a UFO or something like that with a torch or with a drill. I mean, this is stuff that's it's happened in the past. Like they've tried to cut these things open and haven't been able to. So if it's a true UFO, or the orb is a true thing from outer space, for lack of a better term, how would they be able to cut and get shavings off of it?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's the boogosphere.
Yeah, the boogosphere. I keep wanting to call it something
The
something
boogersphere?
else.
Sphere. The
Just-
boogersphere.
I want to keep calling it the mogul sphere, or the something like that. I don't know why, but
Right.
yeah, that's that whole thing with Jaime Maussan.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I hear you there, buddy.
And you know how he's been in the past with things, and he's kind of has a questionable name about himself now because of
Right.
all of the stuff in the past. Anyway, I've got a very good friend of mine who posted some pictures and some video of what he thought were UFOs in the sky. And it turns out, after a thorough investigation was done, that from the ground where he was, he could not see the mountains in the background at night. And it turns out there's a roadway up there. And he got all of that totally got debunked because it was actually found out that it was headlights. So this stuff does happen. But with your photo there, that's pretty incredible.
Yeah. It was pretty cool. Vincent Cadena, welcome to SOR Chat. Yes, that is extra small Lee Strauss right there. Earth Goat Trees, how are you?
No. No, I'm not.
We got about 2 minutes.
But I haven't heard that before. Never. Mm-mm. I've never heard about the Lee Strauss jeans. No.
No, he's
That's
more of a
first for me.
Gloria Vanderbilt type wearing person.
There's no rhinestones on these jeans, Dave. Come on.
No, seriously. I will tell you right now, because I've hung out with Lee before. This is total truth. Okay? Lee still wears 1988 Aikida acid wash jeans.
Oh, no, I don't.
Oh, yeah, you do.
Goes with the hair.
He might be Jordache, too. That's right, T-Bone.
Oh, my gosh. Here we go. How about Guess jeans? Remember when they were a hot thing?
Guess jeans. What about what was it, Benetton?
I don't know, Benetton.
Club Monaco?
Now you're
I
going
will
back
say
too
this,
far.
though. I really do like Old Navy jeans.
Ah.
Jeans and cargos from Old Navy, they are awesome. Total
Never
comfy.
bought anything. Never bought anything from Old Navy.
Oh, dude, you should. The prices are good, too.
They probably are. What was the other one? Hypercolor, but they didn't have jeans.
I remember having a hypercolor shirt.
Yeah. Yep. The
Hold
only
on
thing
one
that
second, Lee. Thank you to Debaruni ×2. T-Bone with a hat trick. Trucker Andrew. Mel WD40 for the super chats. Greatly appreciate the love and support. And here we go in 5 seconds. Here comes the final half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Lee Strauss and the Q&A will continue right after this, but we want to remind all of you that our archives are always free. Why do we push you to our archives? Well, you may have missed this show. You may have missed portions or others you want to hear again and again and again, and they're always free for you. Just hit subscribe, hit follow, ring that bell. Do what you got to do. You hold up your end of the bargain, I keep them free. It's that simple. It's easy. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. From Spaced Out Radio's podcast channel on YouTube, Element 115, we have extra small Lee Strauss. Always wears a small T-shirt to flex his big muscles. Yes, he does. Lee, welcome back.
Hey there, buddy. I'm glad to be here.
Debunking versus acceptance of evidence. It can cause quite a stir. It can cause emotions to get high because people want to believe that they've captured what they believe they've captured. Whether it's a zoomed-in blob squatch or whether it's a dot in the sky or whether it's something up close and personal. Lee, how do we tell what we are looking at? Because a camera is going to have such a different view than our eyes.
Yeah, that's completely true. For somebody that looks at a lot of evidence, I get people send me a lot of stuff to take a look at. And it's so hard for me to tell people that, hey, this is probably just a bunch of birds, really. You know what I mean? It's difficult for me to come across and tell people that because they don't want to hear that. They want to believe, just like you're saying, that they caught something amazing, right? And so it's good if they take whatever footage, photo or video, and they go to somebody that they trust, that they, family member or whatever the case may be, and say, hey, what do you think this is, right? That way, it's not such of a hit. There's so many people that put out stuff, Dave, and I know you've seen it on Facebook and YouTube and this and that, right? Everybody does it. They take the evidence that they've captured, put it up there, and yeah, they're going to get critiqued, of course. And even if it's something legit, you're going to get naysayers. It happens all the time, and people get really bent and really upset. So my this is what I would do. Take your evidence and go to somebody that you trust, a loved one or whatever that is, whoever's really close to you, and show them and get their opinion on it so that you don't get blindsided by some jackwad, on Facebook or YouTube slamming you for the stuff that you caught. If you don't want your feelings to be hurt, do that. Okay. The other thing is nobody else was there but you. Remember that. You were the person there. You saw it with your own eyes. The camera caught what it caught, but you experienced it. So not just by seeing whatever the object is, but ask yourself, what am I feeling at this moment while I'm witnessing this? Because that's freaking key. What do you feel? And not just what is the camera capturing, right? That's huge. And I know you know what I'm talking about.
I totally understand what you're talking about. I think you hit the nail in the head, right? Mm-hmm. We need to be able to accept what we see, but understand that there may be contradicting evidence going against it at the exact same time.
Mm-hmm.
And somehow we got to be able to find a blend between the two, because if you're lucky enough to catch a photo, let's say you see a dog man walking through the trees.
Mm-hmm.
and you quickly grab a photo, the photo may show what looks to be a stump. And there may be, when you look at the photo and then look back at that situation, there may be a stump there. But that wasn't what you saw walking behind the stump.
Yep, exactly. So, doesn't matter at the end of the day, it's not going to matter what people say they see in your photo or your video. What matters is what you experienced, right? That's what matters. And if you don't want your feelings hurt about something, don't post it in a public forum. Okay? It's going to do nothing but upset you. And I've been through that so many darn times, posting the evidence that I've captured. I can't tell you how many times, but that's okay. That's okay. I'm used to it now.
Of course.
But just do your best. Take the best photo. Take the best video that you possibly can. Try to hold things straight and level. It's good when you're out there filming that you get something in the background, be it a tree branch, be it a mountain, something, a building, while you're taking the video or the photo of whatever it is that you're capturing, and be very discerning yourself. But it's not just about the eye. Remember that, guys and ladies. It's not just about the eye and what the eye sees. It's about what you feel. Because if you are seeing something real, you're going to feel your blood pressure jump up. You're going to get hugely excited about it. It's going to blow you away while you're videoing it.
Right. I would agree. Hey, I got something fun that was sent to me on LinkedIn. I thought we could do this together.
Okay.
You ready?
Yeah.
All right. So this comes from Dr. Ursula Walski, who is doing a study on paranormal researchers. So she is researching the researchers of the paranormal. So I figured we could do a study on this and see how we can, if we pass or not. We'll give our information. So I'm going to assume my gender is male. I know that I'm between 46 and 55. And let's see here. Last I checked, I don't know what color has to do with it, but I'm white. Religious beliefs. Do I have any, Lee?
You're agnostic.
Am I agnostic? No, I'm a believer. I just don't believe in religion. I'll go to other and I'll put spiritual in here.
There you go.
There we go. What is my highest level of education?
College.
What do I have? I definitely have, college. There we go. What is your current employment status? Full-time, because I work 2 full-time jobs. What is my occupation? Radio show host. We're going to page 2, my friend. Am I currently investigating paranormal phenomena? Yes. Always. If you are not currently, please explain why. Well, I don't need to explain why. Would you consider yourself a skeptic, having an open mind, a skeptic, rejecting such phenomena exist? There is a rational explanation. A believer depends on the phenomena or don't know. What would you be, Lee? I think you'd be a skeptic having an open mind. I'm a believer, depends on the... I'm a believer. What are or were your reasons for carrying out investigations into the paranormal? To have cool experiences. That's true, because I've never been a researcher.
Nah, you
How long have you been investigating the paranormal? 5+ years? On average, how often do you investigate the paranormal phenomena? Weekly. We're going to page 4, Lee.
All right.
Do you carry out investigations into paranormal phenomena? Individually, in small groups, in large groups, both individually and in groups. I would say both. Because when I was doing the ghost tour, there was a lot of people there.
Yeah.
If in groups, were these investigators part of an organized event? Yes. Please give details. I ran a ghost tour at our local museum. Which, Lee, we will take you to, I promise you.
Thank God.
Do you or did you belong to any organizations concerned with paranormal research? No. No, they are bothersome. Let's see. Going to formal training. Have you undergone any kind of formal training in order to become a paranormal investigator? No. Did you record or publish any of your findings? Yes, on YouTube. All right. What led you to your interest in the paranormal phenomena, Lee? Previous
Ooh.
experiences,
Yep.
current ongoing experiences, other people, simply interested in the unexplained, and interest in seeking the truth.
Past and current experiences.
See, I don't like it when people use the word the truth. Whose truth are we talking about here? Because my truth is different than your truth, which is different than our audience's truth. I don't think
Yes.
there is any truth or specific truth. What do you think?
No, I would agree with that. There's a lot of people that are still trying to find out, what reality they live in for them, for their own, for themselves. I mean, it's for every person, it's different.
I would agree. Absolutely agree. Next question. Why do you think, Lee, such phenomena are disregarded by some people? Difficult to prove? Unrecognized science or scientific language? Such things do not exist.
Well, that can be partly because of your upbringing. It can be because of religion. It can be lots of different things. Mm-hmm.
How do you feel when you're investigating the phenomena?
Oh, definitely excited. Absolutely. What's around the next corner? What am I going to see in the sky within the next hour? Very exciting stuff.
Have you experienced unexplained phenomena yourself? Yes, no, maybe.
Of course, a yes.
Yeah. If you've experienced unexplained phenomena, Lee, what were these and how did you all feel?
Well, it's definitely when you're out there doing the work, you get that rush of adrenaline when it does happen.
What about emotionally?
Well, sometimes it's going to happen before it happens, and that's quite exhilarating too, because it feels like something's coming up the back of your neck and your hands start getting sweaty and you start getting shaky. It's coming.
When investigating such phenomena, do you believe that there is some rational explanation? Always, sometimes, rarely, never, depends on the phenomena or other.
Sometimes.
I would say sometimes as well.
Mm-hmm.
How did you find people react to what you were doing and what was your response?
Depends on the location, but oftentimes we'll say, they'll ask, why do you guys have all this camera equipment? What's going on here? What are you filming? And sometimes we'll say, we're looking for UFOs. Sometimes people laugh. Sometimes they're like, really, really cool. What's your YouTube? That sort of thing.
I always find people will laugh until they realize you're serious. And then that's when you get I don't usually believe in this stuff, but I did have that one strange thing happen.
Mm-hmm.
I always find that kind of funny. I do. All right. Now, where did I put this study? We're going to page 8.
Jeez.
Oh, any other comments? No. And, oh, we're done. We're done.
Okay.
Very vague study.
Did we pass?
I don't know. We'll find
It's
out.
not a test.
I'm trying to get Dr. Ursula on as a guest
Aha.
for that.
Aha.
Yes, T-Bone in the chat room says, the eye roll bothers me. It used to bother me, and I felt like I had to fight to get people to believe me, but now it's kind of like the skeptics and the non-believers are the ones missing out.
They are.
They really are. I mean, there are probably a lot of people who drive beige Volvos, those kind of people, right?
Yeah, unassuming vehicles. I often, this is the way I like to tell people about the phenomena and the stuff that we deal with, is I say to them, I says, isn't it interesting that we know everything about the universe and the world, right? But what if there's still a little bit of magic out there left to be uncovered? And that
what's
just
wrong with that?
Nothing's wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. But it seems to turn the gears in their head. Like, well, yeah, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just open that door a little bit. Hopefully they'll peer through it.
I think it would be, remiss for people. Like, I look at my dad. I'm going to use my dad as an example here. Okay? All of a sudden, out of nowhere, my dad is asking me questions over the last couple of months when I've seen him, because he lives 4.5 hours away.
Mm-hmm.
He's been asking me questions about all of this. And he's like, do you really believe in this, son? Like, why do you believe in it? And all of this, because he's trying. And I appreciate the fact that my 5 senses father is trying to figure this out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think he's feeling better about himself learning about it. I really do.
Well, maybe it's the fact that he's getting older, though, too, right? And he's getting close to the age where, inevitably we will pass on, and we want to hold on to something. We want to believe in something, before we pass, right? That gives you hope that there's something on the other side than believing that this is just it. This is, and I think for a lot of us, that's what we need, right? Is that hope before we go.
I would say that is a great comment, because that would define my father properly. It really would.
Mm-hmm.
It would define him very well. I think it's because my mom has now passed away for 2 years. He's feeling a little bit vulnerable. He's always been so enclosed, and now that mom is gone, he's starting to breathe a little bit, and he's starting to open up his mind to what if this stuff is out there?
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting to watch, because I remember the first time I had a Bigfoot encounter. I called him up and I'm like, "Hey, Dad, you're not going to believe what happened to me." I said, I literally saw 2 Bigfoot today. And he was like, "No, you didn't." I said, "Yes, I did." He goes, "Nah, that's my dad's." Nah. And I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "No, you didn't." And I said, "Dad, why would I waste my time phoning you, telling you that I saw something if I didn't see anything?" And my dad and I have we could get pretty fired up pretty quick.
Yeah.
And he goes, "You didn't see anything. It's all BS anyways." And I just went, "You know what?" I said something to him, and I hung up the phone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Didn't need it.
Right.
Did not need that. Calls me back like an hour later. What did you think? What do you think you saw? And I'm like, "This is what I saw." "Oh, that's weird. That's weird." Now he's thought about it, right?
Yeah.
But the initial reaction was always like, "No, you didn't. No, you
Yeah.
didn't. And he just couldn't handle it. Now it's like, hey, son, can we go to that Bigfoot spot?
There you
From
go.
up there? I'm like, yeah, of course we can.
Yeah.
Right? Let's do it. Let's go for an adventure.
Right. Can you imagine passing on and not believing in any of this stuff? Any of the phenomena whatsoever?
I always
What a-
wonder what happens to the agnostics or the atheists.
What? I mean, I bet you they get their minds blown when they get to the other side. Like, what?
Right?
Oh, how wrong was I for so long? I
And
can't
the
even
fact that
imagine.
there's a lot of skeptics out there who get so angry that you're a believer
Yeah.
or that you saw what you saw.
Right. And, you know, it's like people in the flat earth thing now. I mean, this stuff is it's everywhere. I mean, the UFO stuff is everywhere. And now Sasquatch is getting bigger and bigger too. It's, you know, it's almost like you could put them in the same column as flat earthers.
I would agree with you. I would totally agree with you. And I think you're absolutely right on that one. Absolutely right. But you know what? Here's my parting words before we say goodnight. It's okay to believe. It's okay to be skeptical. But just because you're skeptical doesn't mean that these incidents don't happen.
That's
And
right.
accept them for what they are and for when you experience it. Because for many, they don't get to experience anything at all. So enjoy the fun. Enjoy the woo. Embrace it. Lee, thank you for a great Q&A. Appreciate you, my man, as we say goodnight to Lee Strauss. And hello to Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal, rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at work, at home, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAV, Facebook, Spreaker, LinkedIn, the Space Travelers Club, and on X, hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Remember, this show is copyright by Bigfoot Broadcasting Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends,
we're watching.
we own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo Train has docked for the night, but soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night, everybody. All right, we are clear, my man. Good job. Good show.
Yeah, it was great. I just want to let everybody know out there who's listening and yourself that Jackie says hello, everybody.
Hello, Jackie.
I am trying to use a crowbar to get her to come on Element 115, which is it's tough, let me tell you. But I'm trying to get her on. So she says maybe.
We miss her around these parts.
We sure do. Yep.
Yeah.
Definitely.
She added to the looks column a little bit because we're not a pretty group here. We are not a pretty group.
No, especially with this big old
Especially
cue ball
with
of the
this
head.
elongated head that I have right now. Thanks to my beard.
Actually, I love your
Sweet
haircut.
Robbie G. Let's go to Sweet Robbie G. Are you firing up a show here? You firing up a show, Sweets? Let me check. Now I got to check. Hold on. Sokiel. Digiga.
Let's see.
Does he have a show waiting? I don't think he has a live show waiting here.
I'm going to take a picture of the chat there because I'm going to send that to Jax and let her know that all these people want to have her back on for a show.
Yes, do that.
Mm-hmm.
No show for Sweets tonight. Well, on that note, Lee, stick around for a minute.
Sure.
We're going to say goodnight to everybody. Don't forget you got Sweet Robbie G Saturday and Sunday night in the hot seat at some mysterious studio in Bakersfield, California. Maybe he's preparing for the Condors to be their announcer. Because we all know Rob loves a good hockey game. Thank you to T-Bone with a hat trick, Deb ×2, Trucker Andrew, and Mel WD40 for the super chats tonight. I'm going to get going. I've literally been up since about 5:20 this morning. Yeah. I woke up just wide-eyed. Haven't slept yet, so I'm pretty tired. I'm going to cut this one up on the weekend. And have a good night, everybody. See you on Monday.
Stay healthy, my friend.
You too.
If you need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.